Across the Fence, taking stock of the Lake Champlain Sea Grant Program. We'll see and learn how it's developing and sharing science-based knowledge and how that work benefits the environment and the economies of the Lake Champlain Basin. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson and the Burlington waterfront is our backdrop today, and all around me are various aspects of the Lake Champlain Sea Grant Program. The UVM research vessel, the Melosira, is docked here. Just a few steps away is the Rubenstein Ecosystem Science Laboratory, which is part of UVM's School of Environment and Natural Resources. Just across the lake, SUNY Plattsburgh is part of the Sea Grant program, and back on the Vermont side, UVM Extension is also a Sea Grant partner. To learn more, I'm joined by two guests. Chris Stepnock is the Extension Leader for the Sea Grant program and Extension Assistant Professor of Watershed Science Policy and Education. Alongside Chris is Ashley Eaton. Ashley coordinates the UVM Watershed Alliance. The Alliance is an Extension and Sea Grant collaborative K-12 education program. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Chris, the Lake Champlain Sea Grant program was established in 1999, and in the spring of 2018 it earned a new designation. Fill us in on that.
Yeah, so in the spring this year we were granted the institutional status. So we're one of 33 Sea Grant programs in the country, and now we are among the others that have this next level. There's 4 levels of Sea Grant. With institutional status, we had previously a $400,000 a year federal budget, and now we have $1 million per year federal budget. So it's increased our ability to do work.
By a lot.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So how will that money be used?
Great question. What it allows us to do first and foremost, is to increase our research program. So we have a call out right now for researchers across the basin, anyone doing work in the Lake Champlain watershed, to do research about resilient communities and economies, healthy coastal ecosystems, and environmental literacy and workforce development. We also will be able to expand and develop a fellowship program and to expand our Watershed Alliance program into the state of New York. And that's Ashley is our coordinator here across the basin, and we'll be able to have a new staff person working across the lake.
Now, unrelated to this designation, there's a new research vessel on the way.
There is, and it's part of the University of Vermont's Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources, and we use the research vessel, the Melosira, on a regular basis now with school groups Ashley leads, as well as public trips, and the research vessel that we are getting will enable us to have a larger workspace indoors, as well as to bring more people, and it will be ADA compliant, so it will be great to be able to bring a diverse group of people out on the lake.
Terrific. So what does the new designation mean to the work that you do and to the people who live, work, and play in the Lake Champlain Basin?
So the designation will really help us to address these critical issues. We hear about beach closures, whether that be from E. coli or harmful algal blooms. We know that there's other issues in the watershed, microplastics or road salt contamination. And what it's going to be able to allow us to do is to really dig in and have more focus, again, research focus, as well as doing more outreach to try to help everyone understand our individual roles in helping to protect and improve the water quality in the lake.
Now, there are a number of partners in the Sea Grant. Who are they?
Yeah, it's actually, I fear to miss someone, but we have major partners. So the Sea Grant, the Lake Champlain Sea Grant program is a partnership between the University of Vermont and the State University of New York at Plattsburgh. And then we have, for every federal dollar that we get, we need to have 50 cents in non-federal dollars. So key partners are UVM Extension, as well as the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. We also work very commonly and often with other programs that have federal dollars, like ECHO or the Lake Champlain Basin Program, Lake Champlain Committee, and others across the basin to get our work done.
Those collaborations are really important.
Absolutely essential to do the work that we do. Yeah.
And so one of your current research projects is called Raise the Blade. What's that about?
So that's one that's actually led by the Lake Champlain Basin Program and the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. And what it is we are trying to encourage businesses and homeowners to actually raise the lawnmower blades to 3 inches. The reason is we are trying to help minimize stormwater runoff, and when you have your lawn mowed higher. Most people in the basin are mowing 1 to 2 inches. So if we can get people to put that blade up, the roots will be longer and stronger and more developed, and that means that they can do a better job of being able to absorb and take up water. We're also asking people to only cut 1/3 of the blade at a time, of the length of the blade, and to let those clippings decompose on the lawn, and that allows development of soil organic matter, and soils that have rich organic matter can hold more water. So the whole process is to reduce the amount of stormwater getting into the lake.
And there's a lot for people to learn too as far as changing their habits.
Yes, absolutely. We know from surveys across the basin that people are willing to change these habits if it is good for the health of the lake, if it's good for the health of the grass, which it is. It makes it more drought resistant, and also if it would save them time. And we're working on that one.
So water quality is often in the news. What is Sea Grant's role in improving the lake's overall water quality?
It's a good question. So Sea Grant, we have 2 kind of main factors that we're working on. We're doing research. Again, this new funding is allowing us to engage more research in understanding what's going on with the lake in really an applied research kinds of manner. And then our staff, we have about 10 people who are working with the program, are outreach. And that our job is to go out in local communities and say, what's the issue that you're facing? And then to bring that science out into the community and bring those needs back to the university. And it's a two-way street of what are the needs, how can we address that with scientific research and helping communities solve their local problems.
And some communities may say, well, we're nowhere near the lake, but that still matters.
That's an excellent point. In the Lake Champlain watershed, you could live in Cabot and you could live in Lake Placid and you are still in the watershed. The rain that comes down in those areas is going to make its way to Lake Champlain. So it does matter what we do on the land across this watershed.
So Ashley, a lot of your work involves education and outreach. School-age kids across the area have taken part in the Lake Champlain Live. What do you want people to know about this program?
So this program has been pretty essential. It's our floating classroom, as we call it. So getting students from basically upper elementary, middle school, and high school out on the lake. And this is available to any school that is basically willing to come to Burlington, and we more recently have been moving the Melisira to the South Lake into the northern region to make it more regionally accessible for schools that are slightly kind of on the fringe of the watershed that Chris was just mentioning. So I want teachers to know it's available. We're offering it. It's a limnology-based program, so looking at how to engage students in understanding not only the research that's happening, but actually how to conduct some of the tests. We're sending down pieces of equipment, and then actually getting to look at some data that's live from that trip and from what's happening on the lake at that moment, and then connected to research, some of the pieces that Chris talked about in terms of actions and stewardship that can take place to improve water quality here in the basin.
So the kids actually get a chance to get some hands-on experience.
Yes, yeah, it's very hands-on. They're sending equipment down. You know, sometimes we're doing geology, so they're actually pulling mud and soil samples and doing things like that from the bottom of the lake. But throughout the boat, they're moving around and they're getting their hands on different pieces of equipment, plankton nets, and water samples, which is really neat.
Are they surprised at the kind of work that is being done?
I think for the most part they are. I think that a lot of times the kind of white lab coat is traditionally how scientists are figured. So when we are out in the lake and they're saying, oh, catching fish is science, or oh, pulling these plankton samples is science, I think that for the most part students are pretty interested, like, oh, I could see myself doing this. And this is maybe not traditionally what I thought of as a scientist.
So citizen science program is really important.
Exactly, yeah. So citizen science is one of the main threads of all of the programs that we offer.
And being on the waterfront, of course, there are lots of people who enjoy it, like these folks who are going out on a cruise behind us.
So citizen science is kind of a way to integrate students into collecting data that's meaningful and authentic. So connected to some of the research that Sea Grant is participating in or funding, and then also getting students to participate in something that's a little bit larger than just kind of a program on the lake, looking at connecting it to larger databases and things like that.
And it's really important work that they're doing.
Yeah, it is, exactly.
What do teachers need to do if they're interested in Lake Champlain Live for their students?
If they're interested in Lake Champlain Live, they can visit our website, www.uvm.edu/watershed. And so on there they can find the Lake Champlain Live program. There's a little application that will link them in with us, and we will get an automated email. We'll email them back and we can figure out the details.
What other programs do you offer?
So we have two other programs. Our most popular program actually is not Lake Champlain Live, it's a stream monitoring program. This program is free, so available to any school in the Lake Champlain Basin, and it's place-based, so it reduces some of the financial barriers about busing and things like that. So it happens at the school. The students use their local stream as a stream study site, and they basically build up over a series of 4 to 6 lessons the knowledge of stream ecology, watershed science, and then they actually culminate everything with a day in the field collecting raw data and then data analysis, and they wrap that into designing a stewardship project for their stream reach, so something that would improve water quality based on the metrics that they found in their stream study, and then implement that.
And that sort of gives them ownership.
Exactly, yeah. So I think a big component of our program, it is really science beyond the walls of a classroom, and so it's looking at how are you able to connect students with something. It certainly has more authenticity and buy-in from students in that way, because they're held a little bit more accountable than just filling out a worksheet. They're really contributing to a database that we're entering in, or they're working with some of our researchers.
And so there's also another program called Keeping the Balance program. What's that about?
So Keeping the Balance is a lab-based program. It happens here at the Rubenstein Ecosystem Sciences Laboratory. And this program, over the last 2 years, has really evolved out of some microplastic research that Lake Champlain Sea Grant has been funding, and as well as Ellen Marsden's lake trout research. So we're actually using bycatch from the lake trout research as, which are smelts, as a product for the lab. So the students come in, they're doing fish anatomy and fish dissection in the Rubenstein lab, which is really unique. It actually is modeled very closely to some of our early fisheries classes here at the university. But then the last piece is they're actually doing a presence-absence assessment for microplastics. So looking at kind of extracting the fish stomach contents and just kind of seeing what's in there. Are they finding microplastics? Are they not? And it's a neat way to connect and kind of build on some of the research that's been happening at SUNY Plattsburgh on microplastics.
What is the latest on that? Have they found a lot of plastics?
Yeah, so Danielle Garneau is the researcher in charge, and one of the things that they've done is they have found plastics over time. They've been looking at historic water samples. The most common kind of plastics found in the lake, microplastics, are the ones that are fragmented from clothing. So things that are making it from our clothing are polyesters or fleeces, anything that's made with plastic, that's making its way through the wastewater treatment systems and out into the lake. And then the other thing that she's done is worked on looking at invertebrates and fish and cormorants and the birds, and we see that there are microplastics kind of making their way up through the food chain. So one thing that we'll be doing with Sea Grant and looking for volunteers is there's a new microplastics study for beaches, and we're going to be partnering with the Burlington beaches to try to test out that new method for the developers to see how it works and give them some pros and cons and see how it works for folks. So that will be happening this September.
Excellent. Now, Ashley, you were on Across the Fence in July to talk about the public out education boat cruises. How did those go?
They were a hit.
Oh, really?
They pretty much all of our trips filled pretty immediately. We have a limited capacity in terms of the number of folks that can come out on the boat, but people love them. We have 2 different strands: the stories of Lake Champlain, which is a little bit more about the kind of maritime history, the Native American history, and then looking at the other program, which is modeled after actually our K-12 program, Lake Champlain Live, which is more limnology and science-based. And people are so eager to get on the lake to learn about what Sea Grant is doing, what some of our partners are doing, what the researchers here at the university are doing. And what I think is so valuable is that they're taking little pieces home, whether it's raise the blade or information about microplastics and coming off of clothing, and they're taking those actionable items back after the trip to actually hopefully implement and improve water quality here in the basin.
So people are really surprised at what they're finding. Is like, wow, I could actually make a difference here.
Exactly, yeah, and that is so essential to the work that we do for Extension and Lake Champlain Sea Grant, is to take a very large issue and make it a little bit more digestible, so folks leave our program or leave an event with us and say, oh, here's a little tiny thing that I can implement that isn't incredibly time or money laborsome, and change maybe just a little piece of water quality.
And also educate too, because all of a sudden if you're leaving your lawn thicker and higher, the neighbors might be, what's going on over here?
That's right, that's right.
And so getting them involved as well.
Yep, everyone, we think of it as an all-in approach is what we often hear here in Vermont.
So Chris, how can viewers learn more about the UVM Sea Grant?
For UVM Sea Grant, the website is www.uvm.edu/seagrant, SEAGRANT.
And so, what are some of the things that people will find on that website?
On that website, we also have information about the different programs that we run for different audiences, from realtors to homeowners to businesses to landscapers to private contractors for winter maintenance, and on from there. So all of our programs are highlighted. The Watershed Alliance has its own section as well. So a lot of information and more details about those topics as well.
And Ashley, you're still encouraging teachers to contact you to find out about how they can get their classes involved?
Yeah, so right now we are just wrapping up planning for the fall, but we are in queue with all of our spring teachers. So if you're looking to get out of the Melisira this spring or to do stream monitoring or come to the lab for the Keeping the Balance program, feel free to reach out and we can get you in the calendar for this spring.
Well, terrific. I want to thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for...
That's our
Yeah,
program
thank
for
you.
today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.